Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss the reality of the points and miles game. Now I love points and miles. They have allowed me to travel around the world for a fraction of the cost what other people are paying for it. Points and miles are way more valuable than many people even realize, and if you are someone who is newer into the points and miles game, you probably have been drawn in from all of this amazing travel that you can take from redeeming your points and miles. But at some point, when you are getting into the points and miles game, you probably end up realizing that everything online is as advertised. There are many things that bloggers and content creators do that make this world seem a lot more shiny than it really is. There are some people who are purposely misleading, and then others who are just following what the masses are saying, and they don't feel that what they are doing is at all wrong. I feel that most of the points and miles world is good, but there is a misleading dark side to it as well. In this video, I'm gonna go over a few things that people don't tell you about the points and miles world that you should look out for. The first misleading thing is going to be free travel. I constantly see people online talking about how they got themselves an international first class flight for free, or they stayed at this super fancy hotel for free. While they may not be paying cash, none of this is free because they are paying with points. And points aren't a free currency that's given away to you like oxygen in the sky. You have to work or do something to be able to get or earn these points. The word free has been going on in the points and miles world for as long as I've known about it. They make it seem like you can get yourself a bunch of stuff for doing absolutely nothing. I've said numerous times on my channel that points and miles are just another form of currency, and you should look at them that way. They all have different values, and if you don't have an idea of what the value is, then there's a good chance that you're paying way more for things with your points than you even realize that you need to be. Trust me, I know that it is a great feeling to pay with just points and not have to pull out any cash or have to use your credit card for a purchase. But just remember that those points could have been cashed out. So you have to, at the very least, give the points the value of what the cash out rate is. And if you earn miles for using a specific credit card, well, that is a rebate that you're getting that could have been cash instead if you decided to have yourself a cashback card. Now, this video isn't calling out anyone in particular because there are many people in the points and miles world who advertise their travels as being free. I may have even been guilty of this in the past when I first started making videos. However, I normally would always try to add in the points amount as compared to just saying it was only $5.60 to book this flight. If I said it was only $5.60 to book the flight, and I didn't go over how many points it also required, doesn't that come out as being misleading to you? Now, like I said at the top of this video, while there are some people who are purposefully misleading, there are many others who feel that if they are not using US dollar, well then it feels free to them. But even though it may somewhat feel free to these people, they have to some degree realize that this isn't free just because they're not using US dollars. Like if you were to go over to Mexico and buy yourself some tacos with Mexican pesos, well, that isn't going to be free. If you were to go over to Turkey and go buy yourself a Turkish rug using Turkish lira, just because you're not using US dollars doesn't make that free. Everyone understands that there is a link between Turkish lira and Mexican pesos to the US dollar. You can easily exchange US dollars for these other currencies and have a real understanding of the value of the different three currencies. Now, although airline miles and hotel points don't have a visible fixed rate for everyone to be able to see that matches perfectly with the US dollars like other currencies do, at the very least, what you can do is see what these programs are selling their points and miles for. What I mean by this, as an example, is say you want to stay at the Hilton's Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives, which is a super, in my opinion, overhyped property that people love to talk about. When you see people in the points and miles world bragging about staying at the Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives, they'll tell you that they redeem their Hilton Honors points to be able to get themselves 3 free nights at that property. While they may have gotten themselves 3 nights to stay at this super aspirational property, these weren't free nights because they had to redeem points to stay there. And also it's not free because to even just arrive to the Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives, you have to take a boat transfer that costs many hundreds of dollars per person. But regardless of the boat transfer, to stay at the Waldorf in the Maldives costs 150,000 points each night. Now say you were to buy the Hilton Honors points when they're on a discount for half a cent per point, you would need to purchase 450,000 Hilton Honors points to be able to stay at this property for 3 nights. Now, if I bought those 450,000 points and then redeemed those 450,000 points to stay at this Hilton Waldorf Astoria property for 3 nights, and then I bragged online telling everyone that I got 3 free nights at this Hilton property, don't you think many people would call me out endlessly about why this wasn't free? But if I happen to earn the points from spend on my Hilton card, then people will say it's free. And by the way, many people on Instagram are purchasing points, whether it be them purchasing miles to book business and first class flights, or purchasing hotel points to be able to stay at some super luxurious properties. And they'll tell you that the only thing they paid was the taxes and fees for the flight, or they got the hotel stay for free. But then you end up realizing, if you ever heard them do an interview, they slip up and they'll tell you that they actually purchased the points to be able to book that flight or hotel stay, so none of it was even remotely close to what they advertised it to be. I think that the YouTube space isn't remotely as bad as it is on Instagram, where on Instagram, every single person in the points and miles world is going to be telling you that every single thing that they do is free travel. I'm not saying that these aren't great deals. The points and miles world offers incredible deals. But if you are someone who's staying at the Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives that cost 150,000 points, just know that that stay would have been the equivalent of $750 in cash out rate. But if you would tell everyone that you would never pay $750 to stay at a property, but you would pay 150,000 points, that's like saying, I'm not gonna pay $1 for something, but I'll be willing to pay 4/4. I bring up this point of the free travel, of being misleading, because I know that there are people who could be in the points and miles game who aren't, because they understand that there's something wrong about how this is being advertised. And I was one of those people where, when I first was learning about points and miles, I had a coworker who kept on telling me that I could grab my points and instead of me cashing it out, I could get myself a free Emirates flight. And what I would say to her was, how is it free if it's going to be the equivalent of $1,500 in a cash out rate? So I feel that I would have been in the points and miles game years earlier if she didn't advertise it to me as being free travel. Because I know that although I may not know the value of these different points and miles, there is a value to it, so why you keep telling me that it's for free? The second misleading reality of the points and miles world is the easy ability to redeem your points for the cheapest award price. One of the things that's very challenging in the points and miles world is finding yourself award availability. Many people in the points and miles world, and I'll admit that I'm guilty of this myself, will tell you about how we've flown in premium seats around the world for a very cheap amount of points. Well, if you're a newbie and you try to look online to find yourself the same exact award prices, chances are you're either not going to find any award availability, or you may end up finding award availability, but it's going to end up being 10 times the price of what I named it was. Now, if you're new, sometimes you may stumble across these great deals, but the reality is learning how to book yourself business and first class flights at the cheapest deals takes time, like a lot of time. Once you get the hang of it, the ability to find these different awards does become a lot easier, but if you are a beginner, it is super confusing, yet everyone online makes it seem like it's as easy as making yourself a bowl of cereal. I think there are a few reasons why myself and other people online don't go into how difficult it is to find these certain awards. One of the things that the people who are deep in the points and miles world, who are good at finding these awards, do is that they take the awards that are available to them instead of trying to constantly look for very specific awards. Now, when you end up seeing this online, it looks like they just took this business class flight over to Europe because they wanted to fly on this exact date, but the reality was this is what was available to them. What I mean by this is what people will do who are more skilled in finding awards is going to tell themselves that they want to fly over to Europe in business or first class sometime in the summer, as compared to people who are newer in the game tell themselves that they want to fly over to Europe on April 10th and they want to find 5 business class seats from a specific airport. That is way more challenging, and people who are deeper in the points and miles game very rarely are going to be trying to do something that specific, because chances are you're not going to find the award availability that you're looking for. So it's really about taking the best deals you can get versus having a very specific list. Say you happen to walk down a street that has a bunch of pawn shops every single Sunday, and then one of the days you walk down it, you see someone selling a Rolex for like right around $1,000. Well, it may not be the exact color you wanted, but you're getting yourself a Rolex for $1,000. As compared to if you went into the Rolex store with a very specific model that you want to get, well, unless there's some type of promotion going on at that time that you're walking into that store, chances are you're gonna have to pay the premium price to get that exact watch at the exact time that you want to get it. I've seen many people online complain about how difficult it is to find and book these super cheap and awesome award deals, and I'll admit that it is way more difficult than what people are advertising online. Now, this doesn't mean in the points and miles world that you can't book specific awards. You can, but you do have to do research beforehand to see when they are releasing the availability and then time out when you would actually need to book it. So it takes a lot more work than just going online and then clicking that award. The third reality of the points and miles world is that certain cards that are good don't get talked about that much. You may see people online constantly talking about cards like the American Platinum card or the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, but you might not hear many people talk about the US Bank Out 2 Reserve card. Why is that? Well, the big reason is incentives. Most people who are online talking about certain credit cards either have referrals or they're gonna have certain links that if you use, they're gonna get paid out for you using those links. Now, I don't know if the cards that are talked about the most are the ones that are paying out the best, but I do know that the cards that are talked about the most are paying out pretty well. And even if the card isn't paying out well with a referral, but it does end up getting a lot of clicks, well, chances are people are gonna end up making videos or blogs to talk about that card. For example, if I make a video about an American Express card, and then I make another video about a Barclays card, there is a much higher probability that the American Express card video is going to do a lot better than the Barclays cards video. And there are some good Barclays cards out there with the easiest welcome offers ever, giving you like 70,000 miles for just a single purchase, but no one seems to care. I know that the majority of people who are watching this channel probably know some different Barclays cards, but if you were to walk down the street and ask someone to name a Barclays card, chances are they couldn't name one of them. So the combination of popularity and incentives generates an overwhelming amount of content towards certain specific cards, whereas other ones, while they may not even be bad, aren't really gonna get talked about. Now, there are creators out there who do talk about these lesser known cards, and I am very grateful for them, because at first glance, some of these cards may not seem that great, but after you get some more detail about them, you may realize that they are a perfect fit for your wallet. A card like the US Out to Reserve card will probably end up being a better fit than the Chase Sapphire Reserve card for most people, because most people who have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card just use that card to go through Chase's travel portal, but instead of having to do that, if you have the Out to Reserve card, you get yourself 3x back on all your mobile wallet purchases, and you end up getting the exact same 50% boost that the Chase Sapphire Reserve card gets with the US Bank Out to Reserve card. The only difference is that you don't need to go through some type of travel portal, you just have to use real-time rewards to be able to redeem for that travel purchase. If most people end up just comparing these two cards, they probably would see that the US Bank Out to Reserve is probably a better fit for them, but most people probably don't even know that the US Bank Out to Reserve card even exists. And the fourth reality that is misleading of the world of points and miles is what to expect when it comes to cents per point. Now, I am someone who has said on my channel before that while I do see that there is value in calculating cents per point, I am in no way a person who really cares that much about cents per point. I care a lot more about how many points I'm giving versus the product that I'm receiving. But to a lot of people, the cents per point is super important to them. So when they are looking for a certain award, even if they find the award that they want to book, they see the cents per point is lower than what they thought, which I typically say to them, who cares, just book the award that you want. But for them, the cents per point is just so important that if it isn't a certain level, they feel like that they are failing in the game. Here's the reality of cents per point. The way to get yourself a super high cents per point is by booking an award that has a really high sticker price. Now, I know that might end up seeming pretty simple to people, but the reality is that most people are not booking something that has a super high sticker price. If you're booking an economy flight that costs $400, chances are you're not going to be getting yourself a super high cents per point. Even if you book yourself a business class round trip flight over to Europe, and I'm not talking about booking yourself two one-way separate business class flights and then adding up the cost of those two prices and then making up the cents per point. I'm talking about looking at what the round trip price would be for these business class flights. Chances are you're probably gonna be getting yourself somewhere near about 3 to 5 cents per point. If you book a first class international flight to say Asia or Australia, well, now you're gonna start seeing these outrageously high cents per point amounts. But the reality is most Americans are not booking first class international flights with their points. Most Americans are booking economy flights within America. And if you're traveling the way that most Americans do, then chances are you're probably gonna get yourself a redemption value somewhere along the lines of like 2 cents or below per point. This is why people who are deeper in the points and miles game tell you to save your points for international, business, and first class travel, because they realize you can get yourself a much higher cents per point value. Now, you don't have to travel across an ocean or go internationally to get yourself a high cents per point. And you can even get yourself a high cents per point with hotel stays, but chances are there's gonna be something going on at the time of booking. If you happen to be traveling to a destination for a specific event, well, awesome for you, because chances are you're probably gonna get yourself a higher cents per point value. But if you happen to be traveling to that exact same destination a few weeks later because you don't care about that event, well, your cents per point value is probably gonna end up being lower. An example will end up being that, say you happen to travel to a city where Taylor Swift or Beyonce is having a concert over that weekend. While the points price may not have went up, the hotel prices are probably gonna end up being a lot more expensive because these superstars are there to perform. Something similar like this just happened to me, where I was looking to make a booking in Mexico City for Mexican Independence Day, and I realized that the price to stay at these hotels was super inflated, because it would normally be about a couple $100s per night, with this being a Category 3 Hyatt hotel that I was looking at. But for the time that I wanted to stay there, it was like $800 to $900 per night. But the award prices were still really cheap, some of the nights only being 9,000 points, and then other nights being 12,000 points. So if you go off of cents per point, this ends up being the best cents per point that I've ever gotten when it comes to redeeming with Hyatt hotels. So the amazing cents per point deals that you see advertised online are gonna end up either being for the best deals that are out there, they're gonna be for very specific occasions, or they end up being one-way international award bookings. This is not the average that they are getting. If you don't travel internationally, but you like to travel a lot, most likely, you won't be exceeding 3 cents per point on a regular basis. Comparison can be a thief of joy. Instead of trying to get what others have, figure out what you want and then use others' examples to see how you can end up accomplishing that. The points and miles world is incredibly rewarding, but it also can be frustrating at times, especially when you don't fully understand it. Like most things on the internet, there is misleading advertising to draw you into the points and miles game, but even though everything isn't what it seems, that doesn't still mean that there isn't a ton of value to be had. But hopefully you enjoy this video. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you feel is the most misleading thing about the points and miles game? Now, if you have any questions about anything that I named in this video, you can drop that down in the comment section down below as well. I'll do the best I can to answer it. And if you haven't a real this video, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.